Casey is attending her high school friend Claire's birthday party but is not enjoying it like everyone else. Claire's father arrives and she argues with him, saying not to invite Casey as she doesn't like socializing. Her father remains quiet and Claire reveals about Casey, saying that she is a runaway girl from her home. Claire asks her father to go home and he tells Marcia and Claire not to leave Casey behind. Casey listens and tells them she will take the bus, but Claire's father asks her that she can go with them. While the man is keeping gifts in the trunk, someone beats him. The girls don't pay attention as they are busy talking about their party except for Casey. The man named Kevin sits in their car. They tell him that you are sitting in the wrong car, and then he wears a mask and knocks them out. After regaining consciousness, the trio find themselves in a locked room, as Kevin kidnaps them at his place. Seeing this, the trio gets scared and then Kevin comes into the room and forcefully takes Marcia. Claire beats the door but Casey remains quiet, and Kevin brings her back and leaves screaming. Marcia says he wants me to dance for him, but I peed in my pants and the outside door is also locked. Casey remembers her Uncle John telling her the story and his father mocking him. Little Casey laughs as she listens to her father and uncle, and her father says you will become a great hunter. Then we see Dr. Karen Fletcher, who treats patients with dissociative identity disorder. She hears the news of the 3 girls' abduction. She ignores the news and checks her email. Her client Barry wants to meet her. Claire tries to open the door and Marcia says there's another door locked. Claire says we can't sit like this, he will come at any time and they have to knock him unconscious so they can get out of here. Marcia and Claire ask Casey to come along, but she refuses. Claire says you can't do this, and she says we don't know how dangerous that man is. Casey remembers her childhood again when her father taught her about hunting. Casey's father died from a heart attack, and because of a bad childhood, she doesn't talk to anyone anymore. Kevin visits his doctor, who is his alter ego named Barry. He has 23 distinct personalities. Barry shows her the drawings stating that he will soon start the business of these dresses. Karen asks him about the email and Barry tells her not to worry. Karen still wants to know about the trouble, but he says I just came here to visit you. Karen feels that Barry is much better now than before and that he now pays close attention to his old work. Barry asks her who's going to look after him when you retire or pass on. Karen tells him not to worry about it as she already working on it with her colleague. Barry thanks Karen before leaving and says I'm much better than before. Karen attends her another client and calls her neighbor. The woman asks how you work with your patients because they are dangerous. Karen says it is not a difficult task, I just judge their every personality and start working on them. Karen says maybe they are more than us. Claire and Marcia peek through the door and hear Kevin talking to a woman. They knock on the door and when it opens, they are shocked to see Kevin in women's clothes. This personality of Kevin is named Patricia and the other personality is named Dennis. The man tells Karen that she has been selected for the national conference to work on mood disorder disease. Karen says it's not like this, they know how to control their minds with different personalities. The man denies her opinion, but she says they're capable of something we're not. The girls are talking about Kevin and Kevin arrives with Dennis's personality and asks them to clean the bathroom. He says Patricia told me that I was sent you to get you and promises not to bother them again. Marcia says maybe he is gonna feed us to his dogs. Sometimes later, the girl sees him another look. He tells his name Hedwig and now he acts like a kid and says he'll come and kill all of you. The girls get scared and Casey notices his behavior and understands that he is a DID patient. Casey comes up with an idea to get out and tells him that while you're out, Dennis mentions killing you with Patricia. Hedwig says I have apologized for my mistakes, but Casey says we should all run away before he kills us. Scared, Hedwig mentions that Dennis built this safety room and leaves saying you can't escape. The trio knocks on the walls and the roof and finds the ventilation to get out. Before he opens the door, Claire escapes through the ventilation. She doesn't find a way to get out and hides in the cupboard. Dennis finds her, asks her to remove her clothes and then locks her in a separate room. He then goes to Casey and Marcia, repairs the ventilation, takes off their shirts, and leaves. Karen gives an online lecture to the students, mentioning the different facts of the DID disease. A student asks her about the coexistence of 2 identities at the same time, and Karen says 2 identities can exist when they take the light or the spot or consciousness at the same time. Barry returns for the session and Karen asks him who he is because she takes him as Dennis. She studied all of his identities, but he managed to make her believe that he is Barry. Karen then goes to Jai and asks him to show her the CCTV footage. Between 3 p.m. she watches Barry move near the garbage piles and says, "What are you, Dennis or Patricia?" In the room, Marcia asks Casey to find the way out, but she stays quiet and remembers her time with family. After that, Kevin, being Patricia, comes into the room to take them food. He combs Casey and gives them flowers and asks them to have dinner together. In the kitchen, Marcia asks him to call Claire, but he refuses, saying we have to spend this night without her. He starts to make another sandwich and Marcia wants to escape. Casey stops her but she hits him with the chair and runs out. He asks Casey to go back to the room and goes to find Marcia. Marcia isn't able to find the way and Kevin catches her. He puts a knife on her stomach and says you have no chance to leave here. He tells Casey the beast is coming to take 3 of you and scolds her for getting stains on the shirt. Casey wakes up and sees the door is open but Kevin is sleeping with her. Now he is Hedwig and says you lie to me about Patricia. Casey says sorry to him, and they both have a little kiss. Hedwig says I've got a music player in my room and wants to dance. Casey asks him to go into his room and he angrily says you are fooling me again and starts to leave. Casey stops him and asks him to answer her questions and he agrees. Casey says I want to skip school because I want to stay alone? And he doesn't answer and leaves. During the session, Karen said you emailed me at midnight for the emergency session and asked him about the trouble. Barry says there's trouble but when I woke up I was fine, all my worries were over. Karen asks him how he feels in the high school when a girl holds your hand on her bobs and calls you the bad guy. Barry says it's nothing and Karen calls him Dennis telling him that your other personality has come to light due to childhood accidents. He first refuses to accept him as a Dennis but as Karen says you're here to protect Kevin, he turns himself into Dennis. Karen asks him about the beast and he says it depends on us. Karen says you didn't see the beast and never met so it's not your 24th personality, and Dennis breathes heavily. Hedwig takes Casey to the room where he plays the tape and dances. Casey asks him about the window but it is only a drawing and Hedwig says you want to run away again. Casey calms him and he shows her a walkie-talkie, and he tells her not to use it. Casey talks to a man and asks him to save them and fights Hedwig. The man doesn't believe in her and Patricia appears and takes her to the room. Dennis arrives and tells her about the beast saying it will clean your soul tonight and leaves. Back in the past, John and she pretend to be an animal. After this, Casey aims a gun at John taking him as an animal but John stops her before she shoots. Karen receives an email from Barry we need you. Karen goes to meet him and Dennis takes her inside. Dennis tells her about the woman who was blind but has DID, and due to her 3 personalities, her sight returns. Dennis, there is a beast in my 4th personality which is more stronger and powerful than his other personality. Karen is scared after hearing this and asks him to use the bathroom. Karen finds Claire locked in the room and asks him to free them. Dennis doesn't want to listen and makes her unconscious. After he leaves, Casey unlocks the door and starts watching his videos of different personalities. Karen writes something on the paper, while Claire and Marcia are trying to unlock their doors. Dennis goes to a train station, where he boards an empty train car, which allows the beast to finally take over, giving Kevin superhuman abilities. After running around the city, he comes back to the facility. He confronts Karen who is shocked to see his deadly face. Kevin hugs her, breaks her bone, and kills her. Casey escapes from her cell, only to find that the beast has already devoured Marcia and watches in horror as he devours Claire too. Casey finds Fletcher's body and the piece of paper. The beast approaches her, but she calls out Kevin's full name, bringing Kevin forth. Upon learning of the situation and realizing that he has not been in control for 2 years, a horrified Kevin begs Casey to kill him with a shotgun he has hidden. This prompts all 24 personalities to fight for control of the light and Hedwig is the victor. He gives control over to the undesirable personalities Dennis and Patricia so nobody will ever make fun of him again and they once again let the beast take hold. Casey retrieves the gun and ammunition before escaping into an underground tunnel, where she shoots the beast twice to no effect. She locks herself in a caged area whose bars the beast begins to pull apart. Then he sees faded scars across her body from cutting herself. Having previously declared his plans to rid the world of the impure and untouch those who have never suffered consider Casey to be pure so he spares her and he runs off. Casey is rescued and learns that she was being held at the Philadelphia Zoo, where Kevin had been an employee. When Casey is asked if she is ready to return home with her uncle, she hesitates to answer. In another hideout, Dennis, Patricia, and Hedwig discuss the power of the beast and their plans to change the world. In a diner, several patrons watch as a news correspondent reports that Kevin's numerous personalities have earned him the nickname the Horde. One patron notes the similarity to the case of a wheelchair-bound criminal incarcerated 15 years earlier who was also given a nickname. As she tries to remember the nickname, the man sitting next to her, David Dunn. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more amazing videos.